Mr. Bach, we're so honored to have you in Mexico City. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
The purpose of this trip is, I understand, to have this relation with the new government and also to celebrate 50 years of this wonderful Olympic Games in 1968.
The purpose of the visit is, in fact, to pay respect to a great sporting nation of Mexico, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Olympic Games Mexico 1968, and to pay respect to the sports leaders in Mexico who are doing such a great job. And then at the same time we had the opportunity there also to establish contacts with the highest authorities in the country, means the president and the president-elect.
As you know, I was only a kid in 1968, but I remember these beautiful Olympic Games with a lot of art, these cultural Olympics. And through the years, this has been a little forgotten in the Olympic Committee. Are you willing to return to have all these cultural, beautiful expressions as long as you have Olympic Games throughout the world?
In fact, it has not been forgotten. Mexico has set the trend, and until now, every organizing committee, every host country has a cultural program, and this is reaching until the Olympic Games 2016 and the Olympic art program for Tokyo 2020.
Now the Olympic Committee, I remember when I was a young kid, the Olympic Games in Mexico had a lot to do with the peace. I remember that Olympic movement always is with the hand of the peace. And now you have great stories, new stories to tell with all what's happening with the Koreas.
Well, the Olympic Games are the only event in our world where you can get the entire world, all 206 national Olympic committees together, and where you have a peaceful competition, and where you have then these Olympic athletes living together in an Olympic village without any kind of discrimination. And because we were applying this principle of non-discrimination for whatever reason, be it political, religious, or anything else, and respecting the strict political neutrality of the IOC, this made it possible for us to have the North Korean athletes participating in the Olympic Winter Games in South Korea, and even marching together behind the Korean unification flag. In this way, opening the door then for the political peace talks on the Korean Peninsula and beyond. This is, I think, a great example of the power of the Olympic Games to build bridges.
Which is amazing. Everybody was afraid in the world to have those Olympic, Winter Olympic Games. And at the end of the story, you have a beautiful peace story to tell to everyone in the world.
Yeah, this is, you know, like with all the successes, the best ones are the ones you have to be fighting hard for. And also this success of Pyeongchang and with the two Korean teams did not just fall from heaven. We were working, in fact, 4 years with North Korea, with the North Korean National Olympic Committee. And we were then also working with many governments and many national Olympic committees in the immediate lead up to the Games in the last year or so, when there were threats of military strikes in South Korea, where there was a very hostile language being used, and where, in fact, the Games were at risk. But finally, it worked out very well, and the more happy we are now.
Besides, we're so close to the border. to the point of conflict where the Olympic Games took place?
I think this had more a symbolic significance, that it was so close to the border. What was important was that at some stages there were threats of military strikes, of a war, and where we had to make sure that the athletes and the National Olympic Committees would not then opt out of these Winter Games, and we had to give them confidence that we are doing everything, that they are safe. There we were working closely with many governments and got assurances from many governments that the games in fact would be safe, so that in good conscience afterwards we could really invite all these athletes and all these National Olympic Committees to come to South Korea and to celebrate these Olympic Winter Games together.
Did you ever even have dreams when you were an athlete in fencing that one day you will be the president of the Olympic Committee of the world?
No.
Was that in your mind, or it was simply how life took you there to this important position?
No, as an athlete, you're very focused there on your performance and on your training and competition. There you do not look too much to the left and to the right. My step then to, if you want, the other side of the table into sport management came after I was the speaker of the German athletes around the Olympic Games Moscow 1980, where then finally we German athletes, because of our government, had to boycott these Olympic Games. And then the NOC and the then NOC president invited me to join the NOC, and I said spontaneously yes. And when he asked me, he said, "Don't you want to think about?" I said, "No, I do not need to think about, because I do not want what happened to us here to happen to any future athletes generation." So this was then a kind of turning point.
And now you are enjoying this position. I see you happy doing what you do around the world. You have a terrible schedule, you fly all day, but you look very happy in this position.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I'm a great Olympic fan, and if you're
First of all, you're in the first row in every event.
This is the greatest privilege of an IOC president, that you can go to all the sports events in the world, speak with the athletes, learn about their needs in our modern times, and it's as IOC member or IOC president, you can shape the future of Olympic sport. You have the opportunity to look into this future, to have a vision of how the world in the future would look like and what this means for sport. And then you can try to lead the sport in the right direction, so that the sport keeps its relevance in society, and that at the very end we can all enjoy sports, because this is the most important.
How do you foresee the Olympic movement in 10 more years?
It will, like the society at large, it will be much more digital. This will affect every athlete. It will also affect every spectator. It will affect the presentation of many sports. And we will then also see new sports getting more important, and they're also sending a different message of youth than to the world. But I hope that the values will still be the same, and that also in 10 years, also in 50 years, and hopefully also in 100
and in
years from now.
Nobel Prize of Peace with you for what you have done.
No, this is...
We'll celebrate. Thank you very much, Mr. Bach.
Thank you. Thank you.
In Grupo Imagen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Adrenalina, domingos 10 p.m. Participa en Imagen Televisión.